Okay, for this layout, I wanted to create a second page to go with this one that I made from the circle lattice template. And so I wanted to follow those colours, but I wanted to really venture on using or creating or using photo corners, because I think they're very underrated and we don't really use them enough. So if you purchase the recent adhesive buffet, you may have got a pack of the beautiful designer photo corners from that. So I thought I might have used some out of that. And as you can see in the pack is just absolutely divine. There's lots of different beautiful themes from it that you could use in many a layout. They are just absolutely gorgeous, but I think they're very underrated and we don't use them anywhere near enough. So the idea of this layout was to really use some of these, but also teach you how to make your own, if that's where the inspirations come from, to add your own flair to your page. So I'm lost for words today, but anyway, let's keep moving on. So I've chosen a background paper, and I wanted to make sure that it would go with the original one, and that was the I used the dark purple cardstock, and the rest of the papers were from the blue and gold collection that was a promotion. So I wanted to make sure I used something that matched. So I found this paper from the Devotion, and I think side by side it'll go quite well once I add the purple cardstock to it. So you will need a background paper, you will need a cardstock which we're going to cut a frame out of, and then you will need extra cardstock for embellishments. Now I'm using some platinum silver cardstock and black shimmer cardstock, and the feature of my layout is the Rose Garden border punch. So if you were lucky enough to get one of those, you'll be able to do the same. Otherwise, we have plenty of other border punches that would work just as nicely with this layout. So anyway, I've already gone ahead and I've cut a 2-inch frame. So, but first of all, I've cut a 1/2 inch off two sides because I wanted to be able to see the edge of the paper that it was lying on top of. So you will need to cut 1/2 inch off one side, rotate it, cut it 1/2 inch off the second side. And then if you've not done this before, Megan Jacks is just sorry, I think it was 1.5 inches my frame. I'll double check that size for you. Yes, it was 1.5 inches. If you haven't done this before, Megan Jacks came up with the idea, and I use it quite a lot. You just use a couple of ball clips to stop your housing moving, line it up at where you need it to cut. So you can see along here, line this line up, and I would want it at 1.5. So I'll just grab one of those clips and we'll line it up to what the line gets to 1.5, and then without moving it, you would put a clip at that end, and then we would move it down to the other end because our it's not 12 by 12, it's 11.5. The second one would go at 10 inches. I hope you can see that. And therefore your carriage is only going to go between those lengths. Then you put your cardstock in, line it up to the 1.5, cut, rotate 90 degree, 45 degrees, rotate, cut, and you continue to the whole way till you are through to the other side. So pretty simple idea, but works a treat. So I have gone ahead, like I said, and cut a frame that's 1.5 inches wide, because that's going to be centered on the piece of paper. So then also what I also did, I went ahead and I cut using the black shimmer cardstock. I punched out 4 of the Rose Garden borders, so to give this lovely frame. And you can see I've mitered them, so I only have one, and I have one hiding here, one left to put down. And you can see I've mitered the corners. And if you've ever done this technique before, sometimes you just don't get them lining up perfectly. So that was my idea of making corners to go on the corners of my frame. So let me pop this down, and we will go ahead and adhere that last side with some repositionable tape. Now these haven't lined up too badly, but sometimes you just don't get them that accurate. So now if you don't know how to miter corners and you'd like to do that, I will quickly show you. Let me just line that up. And you can see it's not perfect. So it's also, I don't think, quite straight. So thank goodness for repositionable tape. I'm still not getting it right, so let me go one more time again, and if not, I'm giving up. Because you just need them to meet at this corner rather than this corner. Doesn't matter if the outer corners, they don't meet quite right, because you're going to cover them anyway, but you need for them to meet at the inner corners. So okay, that's all done now. With the mitering, so to miter them, I cut them to 11.5 inches long, and then using my trimmer, I lined up the corner, making sure it's on the angle of the 45-degree angle, and then just cut. Simple and easy. Then you flip it to do the other side. So you need to make sure you flip it to get the trapezoid shape to make a frame. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so once we've done that, we are now going to adhere. Oh, before we adhere, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we adhere our frame to our backing paper, we are going to make 4 corner pieces for our frame. And I have cut 4 pieces of platinum cardstock at 4 inches wide by 1.5 inches wide by 4 inches long. So they are 1.5 wide and then 4 inches long. Now we need to score them to create the actual corner, which will end up looking like this. So to do that, it's quite easy. You just need to change over your blade to your scoring blade. And once again, we're going to use that 45-degree angle. So line up this peak, or your top peak, to your line. And I think I just went just past that, but you need to make sure it's on the line for where you're going to score. So actually, let's take it over a bit further, because we want it to come from the center here rather than from that corner. But line it up with your 45-degree angle and score. Now all you need to do is flip that over, line it up, make sure you get kind of, this is not the best of colours to show you. That score line needs to line up with the cutting line on your mat. So once again, 45-degree angle. And you can see you have two score lines there. Now when I fold them, it's going to create a corner piece. And you can always cut off the excess that you don't need, because that's going to fit. Say that was the corner of my mat. That's going to fit over the top, as you can see. So you need to keep going till you have all 4 pieces done. I think I've got one more to go. I'll do that again. I think if you line it up roughly with the 4 centimetre mark on your right hand side, you will get pretty close to the middle. And we flip. Just making sure that that line is going to meet up. To give you your 4th corner. Now the other thing I thought I might do, you could just leave that as just a plain corner if you like, but I went ahead and I cut out some more rose border in the dark purple colour, and I am going to adhere those to the corner, so they're going to end up looking something like that. And once you adhere it to the corner there, as you can see, it's a lovely contrast with the black. So I'll go ahead and stick all those down and adhere those 4 corners to my frame. Okay, I've gone ahead and made my 4 corners, so you just need to adhere your border embellishment to the top of it and then fold your corners back. Now we're going to adhere these to the frame. So you want to place them over the back of the frame. A little bit of some repositionable over the back of the frame, and then just fold it all back and make sure that it's going to fit around the frame. Anything else that needs to be folded back. And you can see there's the first one in place, and you want to keep doing that for all 4. So we'll keep moving on. Now, not only can corners be used to cover imperfections or mistakes, they can also be added just to add texture to your layout, as I'm doing. Now, as I said earlier, usually my mitres don't always line up as well as these ones did, so the intention was, if it didn't line up, it covered up mistakes. And the last one. So you can see they're pretty simple to make. And you can use them over the edge of photos or mounting squares or whatever have you. So anyway, there are, I'll just fold back the little bits of the garden punch that are sticking out. So that now is all ready to be mounted to my backing sheet, and I think I'll use normal tape runner to my base sheet to adhere that so it's not going to move. I could use foam squares or the new foam tape that was a part of the same adhesive buffet, but I think we're just going to do it flat. I think go ahead and do that. And make sure I use plenty in these corners so they don't lift. Once they're down, they're down. Just sticking back parts of that on the back of each other. So, now to line it up and get it straight. Before we stick it down. This is the hardest part, I think. Making sure that you have it. Just not quite happy with that corner there. It's just me being super fussy now. Let's put that in just a tiny bit more. Not quite happy with the way it was sticking out. Right, that's better. Okay, so now that's adhered. Now the last thing to do is to add our photos, and I wanted to be able to, I think I'm going to trim those down just a tiny little bit so I can mount them and add these photo corners to it. So I will do that and I'll come back to you. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've cut some mats and used the adhesive corners to stick on the corners of my photos so they're onto the mat. I haven't stuck them actually down, so they could be pulled out if I wanted to, but pretty much what I think to finish this off, I've also picked out some lovely embellishments from the blue and gold pack that'll match the other page. And I think I'm going to finish it off something in this manner, something similar to this. I just have to journal onto my mat before I finish it off, but pretty much well, I think it'll be something like that. But you can see how the corners just add to it, and it just helps to create a lovely layout. So thank you